Hi there, my name's Liam and today I'm going to be talking about a very groovy film. That film is Evil Dead 2, directed by Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi also directed the previous movie in the instalment The Evil Dead, which came out in 1981. Sam Raimi also directed Army of Darkness, which came out in 1992, and then years later, in 2015, he created the show Ash vs Evil Dead. Evil Dead 2 is a horror comedy that was released in 1987, and it's continued that trend of the sus cabin in the woods that we all know and love. The film was written by Sam Raimi, Scott Spiegel, and produced by Robert Tapper. Bruce Campbell stars as Ash Williams, the Deadite Slayer with a chainsaw hand, at his charismatic best. One of the craziest things about this crazy movie was that Sam Raimi and the crew didn't actually have rights to the previous movie. This was due to studio differences. Due to this, the first 10 minutes of Evil Dead 2, they had to basically reshoot the whole of Evil Dead 1. So this was basically they had a wee recap of it. So it can get a bit hectic at the start, but after the first 10-15 minutes, it definitely gets going. So that's me done for my intro, so grab your popcorn, grab your boomstick, and let's get right into this review. The story begins with a quick expositional voiceover from Dr. Raymond Noby, giving us the backstory of the Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead. We then cut to Ash's iconic Delta Oldsmobile driving through the mountains. Ash is driving to the infamous cabin with his girlfriend Linda. In the original, the two were accompanied by Ash's sister Cheryl and friends Scott and Shelley, spoiler alert, them biting the dust. Later that night, in the cabin, Ash gives Linda a gift. A weird and magnifying glass necklace, not a good gift really. Thing that comes into play later. Ash notices a tape recorder sitting on the table, along with a creepy wee book with a creepy wee face, and plays the audio. The voice of Dr. Noby comes through the recorder as he reads from the book, with a dolly cam travelling through the woods towards the cabin. The cam smashes through the window, attacking Linda. Ash goes to inspect the commotion, but Linda is gone. In another scene, just like the original, Linda, now possessed by a deadite, jumps out and hits Ash to the ground well in the woods. The possessed Linda leaps to finish off the job, but Ash conveniently finds a shovel next to him. Ash swings the shovel and decapitates Linda for his first deadite kill, one of many. We then see a dolly shot running through the cabin towards Ash where Evil Dead 1 ends. We can finally get into the true Evil Dead 2. After being flung through the woods, Ash attempts to escape, although the bridge back to safety is mangled. This is a really cool shot because the bridge almost looks like a demon's claw that is sort of trapping Ash, similar to the Deadite's claws. There's some nice cinematography in here as well, as it shows the sun rising with sunlight coming through the trees and the clouds, giving us some relief that Ash is finally safe and finally going to get out of this nightmare. Just as Ash thinks he's safe, the demons use their magic to use dark clouds to block out the sun and essentially bring it back to nighttime. This helps bring back the feeling of dread and unease that all horror movies need to have. Ash rushes back to the cabin, and one of my favourite scenes of the movie, it has a dolly cam chasing Ash through the cabin. It's insane how Bruce Campbell and neither the cameraman as well don't hit any pipes or bars within the cabin during this chase sequence. Ash is being tormented by stop-motion demons and the puppet head of Linda. While Ash's hand has been bit by the decapitated head of Linda, we cut to one of the most iconic scenes in the franchise as Ash stumbles his way to the work shed outside. doing this while Linda's head is still attached to his hand. As Ash finally reaches to the work shed, he managed to trap Linda's head in a vice and then uses a chainsaw that's lying there to cut Linda's head in half to finally put her down for good. This whole sequence is a hilarious showcase at Bruce Campbell's physical comedy in 80s B-movie fashion. We arrive at my favourite scene in the movie that cemented Bruce Campbell's place as a horror and B-movie icon. In this scene, Ash's hand has been completely possessed by the Deadites. Bruce Campbell is hilarious, throwing himself about the kitchen, hitting himself to the ground, doing somersaults, all sorts. Eventually, Ash managed to finally keep it still and yells, in a brutal and bloody yet comedic scene where Ash uses the chainsaw to cut off his right hand. This is essentially the scene that fully pushes Ash over the edge into insanity for the rest of the series. Escape, we cut to an airstrip with the subplot of Annie Nobe, Raymond's daughter. Annie, with Ed, an archaeologist in tow, have collected the final pages of the Necronomicon and are making their way to their father's cabin. As Annie enlists a couple of rednecks, Jake and Bobby Joe, to show them a secret way to the cabin due to the bridge being out. Despite cutting it off, Ash's hand is still very much alive, even flipping him the bird in a funny scene leading to every inanimate object in the cabin laughing. While the laughter drowns out Ash, Ash decides to just start laughing back, breaking out into a silly little dance as well. There's a great use of Dutch angles, extreme close-up shots and lighting in this scene to help bring the craziness. Ash's party gets interrupted by the others as he nearly blasts Annie's head off with a boomstick. As the group charge in the cabin and see a psycho with a chainsaw covered in blood, they lock poor Ash up in the cellar, sealed with a trapdoor. While Ash is down there, the group play the audio of Nobe again while investigating the cabin. Little do they know this awakens Henrietta, Raymond's wife and Annie's mother, now a fat, grotesque deadite, played by Sam Raimi's younger brother Ted. After finally realising the situation, the group yank Ash out of the basement just in time and fend off Henrietta, locking her back up in the basement, with Bobby Joe getting an eyeful of the situation. Get it? Eyeful. While Ash explains the situation, Ed gets possessed, leading Ash to having to kill him with an axe. Some time passes and Bobby Joe has had enough of this. She leaves, and it's safe to say it doesn't go well for her. Jake, who's pretty much her husband, holds the others at gunpoint to go search for her. Annie becomes our focus for the next 20 minutes or so of the movie as Ash ends up getting possessed and chases her through the cabin. Jake gets caught up in this and eventually mauled by Henrietta in the basement after being tossed down by Annie. Just as Deadite Ash goes to finish Annie off, he notices that cheap necklace he gave earlier to Linda. See, I said it would be important later. And fights off the demon to return again. Ash uses the necklace to return human again after basically remembering her. We now enter the final act of the film as Ash and Annie enter the shed to prepare for war with Henrietta, due to the final pages of the book being down there. Ash attaches the chainsaw to his hand and saws the end off, his shotgun to make it a proper boomstick. Groovy, indeed. Henrietta is arguably the most minging character and scary character from the whole franchise, from her absolutely fat, gooey, disgusting body to her distorted, creepy voice. After slicing up stop motion Henrietta and claiming the final pages, the whole forest attacks the cabin. Annie reads the pages to open a rift and defeat the evil dead. A creepy tree thing also manages to scare half Ash's hair white. Ash manages to fend off the tree monster as Annie finishes reading with her dying breath after being stabbed with the Kandarian dagger. Fortunately for Ash, it doesn't go so easily for him as he gets sucked into the void along with the Delta Oldsmobile. After waking up in the medieval days, Ash, in confusion, he sees a deadite flying over the top, so he fires his boomstick, killing that deadite. After defeating that deadite, Ash is in awe as he's surrounded by a load of knights. Ash has been transported back in time to the old medieval ages. The movie ends here with Ash screaming no in misery as he's now a man lost in time and lost with his mind. That was basically Evil Dead 2, with studio interferences causing reshoots and having to reshoot scenes entirely. The movie definitely has problems with slightly confusing continuity due to these studio problems and cheesy dialogue from some B-movie actors. I'd recommend this movie to anyone, especially if you're a big horror fan. It's one of the staples in horror movies, literally one of the franchise to invent cabin in the woods tropes. It's also interesting just the way the series changes through the years. The Evil Dead was a horror, Evil Dead 2 was a mix of horror and comedy, and the third one to round out the trilogy, Army of Darkness, was a straight up comedy. The rest of the series is really good as well, especially just even if you're not a big fan of the plot, with the sort of the messy acting, dialogue, just Bruce Campbell's performances alone, give it a watch. That's my review, guys. Thanks for watching and stay groovy.
Swallow this.